Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Veronica Klucik, and I'm the exhibitions manager at the Museum of Design Atlanta, also known as MODA. For those of you who aren't familiar with MODA, we are the only museum in the Southeast dedicated exclusively to the study and celebration of all things design. At MODA, one of our core beliefs is that design has the power to inspire change, transform lives, and make the world a better place. Last year, we kicked off our Climate and Change project, which calls attention to the dramatic changes occurring in our climate and celebrates how designers in our community and across the globe are offering solutions to this critical issue. Part of this project is the curation of an exhibition called Full Circle, Design Without End, which will explore the concept of regenerative design. And just to give you a brief intro of what regenerative design is, it essentially asks us to see ourselves and our actions as small parts of a much larger system and to design in ways that strengthen and replenish natural systems rather than deplete them. This is all why I'm very excited to be here today, partnering with GT Arts and Serenbe to bring you this conversation with Patrick Dougherty. Patrick is a sculptor who has woven tree saplings into over 300 incredible site-specific sculptural installations and who has just begun installing a piece on Georgia Tech's campus in a sector of their eco-commons. So with all that said, hi Patrick, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to be able to sit down with you for a bit. I guess to kick us off, can you just share a little bit about the beginnings of your practice and how you began sculpting and what drew you to using tree saplings for your works?
Well, I have a great website that people can see my work. It's stickwork.net. I always say that artists decide to do things and then they make up the reasons later. And that's so true of me. Early on, I went back to school in my 30s and early 30s and decided I would become a sculptor. I'd been in health administration before then. And at the end of my time, I looked around for a way of working that I might already know, some simple technology or some simple method of joining that I might be familiar with. And, some of that was about birds and about how things go together. I saw that the roadsides along North Carolina, you have the maintenance crews are always out there cutting saplings down and trying to clean along the roadside. And it gave me the idea that maybe I could use that material.
It's very interesting. So very inspired by using the kind of waste, I guess, of the things that.
Yeah, there's in a way, saplings are produced by urbanization. When you cut down the forest, the next thing that happens is the saplings return and they're prolific, and usually the ones that come in first, maples, gums, small ash trees, all of those things are bendable and pliable saplings that I can use. And at Serenbe, they were kind enough to let us gather in one of their fields that had regrowth underneath the larger pines, had regrowth, and we were able to get quite a lot of sweet gum, which is another great bendable stick.
And I know that, or I think that you tend to choose the saplings based off the local ecosystem, those that are native to the local ecosystem. But how do you, or are there some that you just won't really use, or how do you kind of know where to begin looking?
Well, in a way, I've managed to work in lots of different places, so I, over a period of time, know the kinds of sticks that they might have available. I do site visits before I actually start gathering. So, if I'm in Hawaii, I might use strawberry guava or a Java plum or, some varieties of eucalyptus. Out in the Midwest, there's rough leaf dogwood and elms, Siberian elm, or say in Kansas, In different places there might be Michigan and has willow, which is a good one, and that's true of down in Louisiana as well. So, there's different places, and I look for a material that's flexible, that has good color. So a maple sapling has a lot of different colors it's got one color in the stem, another color in the buds, and so you can conscript and you can bunch those colors up so that you can get effect from them. I try to, there are a lot of sticks that don't work. I mean, privet, there's a honeysuckle bush, and around through Ohio and places that nobody likes. There's Russian olive, autumn olive. There are a lot of things that people would like me to work with, so that they could say, oh, we had a use for these things. But still in all, we find land that's for sale, or nurseries that are going out of business, or along roadways that where the highway department is allowing us to cut. So we find lots of different places to harvest saplings. It's always good to harvest them in ways that they come right back. So if you cut the whole crop of it down to the ground, you have the stumps are presented to the light, so you get even more saplings in the next year. So it's kind of a renewable resource.
That's incredible. So you can keep making structures for as long as you like, basically.
Well, that's exactly true. We've often gathered in Duke Forest. I'm from North Carolina, and Duke is not too far from me, and they have a big forestry program. And we can see that we've cut off of the same stumps over the last 20 years. And the next time, maybe 3 or 4 years later, we go back and ask permission again, and we can cut off of the same maple stump.
That's incredible. So have you seen your practice evolve over time?
Yeah, I would say that over a period of time, my work has matured, that I am able to take on more challenging sites. I've learned to work with volunteers, and I try to partner with organizations in order to do the work. I use their goodwill and their leverage in the community to find materials and to get the logistics of things we need to produce the work. And so, all of those are challenges that over a period of time that I've learned to take on, bigger projects, more complicated projects. And, some of my sponsors are old pros, some of them are nascent organizations. And no matter who's sponsoring us, we try to produce a great piece, try to use volunteers from that community, try to find the materials nearby, and, come up with something that's compelling, that speaks to maybe the house painter that's painting the house next door, and a fine arts painter as well.
So would you say that context and where you're building has a very big role? I know it obviously has one when it comes to the saplings that you're choosing, but as far as how you, like the designs that you the way that the objects will look, and how you build.
Yeah, I make a site visit, and I have a kind of meeting of the minds with my sponsors as to where a piece should go. And there's a lot of readjustment in that, because the sponsor might say to me, well, we'd like to be able to see it from the road. Maybe that would improve our relationship with the community. And I might say, well, who are you serving? If it's a college, I might say, well, your students are your primary viewers, so maybe we ought to put it over near the library, or put it in front of the dining hall, and if you put it out on the edge of campus where a lot of people drive by, who's going to be able to stop and see it? So, there's that, and finding a good site. And once you have a site, you want to try to make something that has the right scale for that site, that has a kind of reciprocity with the site, that maybe mimics some of the shapes that are in view of the site. Maybe it's steeples, or maybe it's it's shrubbery that's nearby that could be inspiring. Generally, we try to think of an idea, or I try to think of an idea that has some relevance to the site, but also that's very vague in a way. You know, I try to think of something that has room within the build to make a lot of impromptu decisions that I think true up the work and make it more responsive to the site, rather than coming with an ironclad idea and just following it no matter what. You know, I've got this this plan. I'm going to make the plan. I've got to make the plan. That's just not the way that sticks work. There's so much variability in the saplings. There's variability and my sponsorship, variability in the people that help me. And so all of that has to be taken into account and seen as these are your resources. How are you going to play them out well so that you make something that really excites people's imagination?
That's incredible. I think very important, especially when thinking about designing with nature in mind in general. I know a lot of the projects that we've been looking at require a lot of adaptability and reflexiveness. But have you ever had a project that has come out looking completely different than you originally went in imagining it to?
Generally, the projects look, they fall within a range of what we initially thought should happen. You know, I could say any number of projects. We've done so many over the years, but you know, each one of them, we have we do a drawing, a very vague drawing, but we get an idea, and we lay that idea out on the ground as a footprint. So we know, just generally, we know our parameters, and then as we work, we're refining those parameters. But in the way that we work, once we have our footprint, we drill a series of holes around the perimeter of that footprint. We set a scaffolding around our work and use it as an exoskeleton, and we'll pull the shape that we want. So if we want the shape to lean over dramatically, we lean it over at the time, and then make a kind of blank. We use a structural weave. We go all different directions and lock the shape up into its overall gesture. And the second phase is we kind of, once you've made a canvas, then you draw on it. So the second phase is kind of a drawing style. If you hit a piece of paper with a pencil, you usually strike it with one weight and finish off with another. You're making a series of tapered lines. Since sticks are tapered, if you organize them in one direction, it has a sense of implied motion. So the second phase is kind of a drawing phase, an aesthetic phase in which you're appliquing a look onto this blank that you have that you know is strong enough that it can hold the work through all kinds of weather. So, and then the third aspect of it is a cosmetic phase, in which we go back and do fix up. And also it's kind of an erasing, just so if you have a good drawing and you think some things could be improved slightly by erasing, that's what we employ too. So things that seem to be a little out of kilter, that don't seem to play into our overall design, we might erase them by putting small sticks over them so that you don't notice them anymore. We also might reassert some lines that we think would be uniting lines for the entire piece, because often I'll make a series of elements that go into one big object, and kind of since our volunteers are working on it, the surfaces can be kind of choppy. So the last little bit is me going around and doing not only the cosmetics of it, but trying to unify the entire piece by using certain kind of lines and Xing and joining all of it into a unified whole.
That's awesome. And you were talking about the volunteers at the end. How is that process like? Like when they come on, and I assume most of them haven't really worked with sticks before in this way.
Well, yeah, I've learned to work with volunteers. One of the things that's true is we've all played with sticks as children, and excuse me, children have a kind of an atavistic memory of our prehistory, in which sticks were one of our major materials to build houses with and so forth. So kids go through a building phase and they know everything about sticks. It's utility, it's an imaginative object. And so it doesn't take that much to awaken those feelings in adults. You know, adults, people of all ages collect sticks. They say, I could make a cane out of this. Maybe I could go home and make a trellis out of these sticks. This is just my favorite stick. I love it because of its configuration or color. And so I think probably people that come to work for me have some ideas about what they would like to do with sticks at home, and then they think they'll come over and see what's going on and how to use them. So you know, it doesn't take long before just almost anybody can start helping and contributing. We have different kinds of jobs on the site, so if you're not one person not as strong as another, we might give you a job that would fit your skill. I look at the volunteers when they come up, and I make some choices about what I think they can do. You know, if they're young and they can climb easily, we might put them on the scaffolding. If it might be difficult to bend over, you know, we might have another kind of job for somebody. So I tell you, and then if you find that some people are too bossy, you just put two bossy people together and have them boss each other for a while.
I love that. So you get all kinds of volunteers, I'm guessing, from, do you have any great like volunteer stories from your times around the world or anything like that?
Well, I have to say that sometimes we can't use volunteers because we'll be working for a city, and for one reason or another, they'll decide that city workers are going to come and help us. And of course, you know, in that regard, they often send the person they dislike, the person that they would like to get out of their shop, you know. Mm-hmm. So we're working in Austria, and they send Albert. And Albert's just got one hand, and he's a big guy and a real loudmouth. And so he's very difficult to work with. But we came to a meeting of the minds because we were in the Alps, and Albert could yodel. And so you could say, Albert, yodel, and he would yodel until you said, Albert, stop. Well, you know, every child has tried to yodel. And when I was young, I thought yodeling was possibly the best thing a child could do. So I would start trying to yodel. And my dad said, if you're going to uvulate, go into the closet. And so it was a joy to me to be able to say, Albert, yodel. And he would yodel as long as we wanted. And so for as far as I'm concerned, that was better than any stick work that he could do.
That's incredible. I love how much you're talking about, you're pulling things back to the childhood as well. Just because I also love doing anything that and like brings out that childhood and play. And so it's really nice to hear that energy is there on all of your builds.
Well, one thing I think of is that as a good sculpture is one that causes lots of personal associations, that you have starting points for looking or enjoying the sculpture, you know, and somehow it means something to you a little bit before you get into it. And through the years of working, I've seen that sticks and the sculpture that I make that are made out of that material, that's a familiar material, reminds people of bird nests they've seen, might remind them of indigenous tribes that they visited, but mainly it reminds them of childhood, their first kiss under the lilac bush, you know, or a walk they've taken in the woods, or some favorite tree, you know, Big Mr. Twister, or Simple, Hard and Easy, trees that were in your neighborhood and that the kids gravitated towards, or, you know, one couple told me about there was a place in the woods near their home that was called Stick Town, and kids went there and found sticks and built things with them. So it was along a river where they had sticks wash up, and so Stick Town was a big thing for several generations of families. So, you know, I think a good sculpture brings people back to something they know that's a bit familiar, and then it's also informative and transformative, that it brings people into new feelings that they might not have imagined you could use sticks in a provocative way that pulled you along.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel every example of your work that I've seen is just very whimsical and very fantastic and kind of out of a storybook. So I could definitely see.
It's always the attempt to use just a regular pile of sticks and try to do something new with it, something that has a different kind of imagery. Sometimes I see shrubs or see pictures of things in topiary gardens, and I say, I wonder what it'd be like to go inside your shrub, or what it would be like to stand inside your potted plant. Or you see different kinds of architecture. We just finished a piece at the Montgomery Museum, and we were looking at some of these pyramids in Sudan, and decided we would try to turn geometry on its head. So I built these pillows out of sticks, and then we set our pyramids askew on these pillows so that they look like they're about to turn over. And so just drawing imagery from just different things you see, maybe a line that you heard. Once we started a series of sculpture based on doodles that came from besides people's telephones. We looked on the internet and to see all the if we could find a good doodle, and we laid that doodle out on the ground and proceeded to make a great piece. A lot of the current tattoos are based on ancient ruins, and these are all kind of community unity symbols. And so we started some footprints based on some of these old ruins and tried to figure out what that would mean if we made a three-dimensional object out of just a pattern on the ground.
That's very cool. And I have to ask, going back to what you were saying about the process, and when you lay the things on the ground and you drill holes in them, or you said you drill holes in the ground, but how does that kind of differ for you when you're in, say, an urban setting or a setting where you may not necessarily be working with ground?
Yeah, well, so that we did we've done some shows where we're working in galleries, and so we have to be tricky. We worked at the Brigham Young Museum not long ago, and we decided the room their gallery is absolutely huge, and so the thought was that if we made a number of boxes and made a grid in those boxes and stuck our sticks down in the boxes, we'll fill the boxes with sand, then we could make an enormous piece that stood up on the inside, and we'd hide the boxes by covering them with sticks, So the piece turned out to be really great. Now, sometimes we'll have to work on concrete. Like in Melbourne, we were working above the train station on just a big plaza. And so my sponsors made a very flat steel framework, and with a kind of with places where I could drop my sticks, my basic structural sticks, down into these cones. And it was just pretty much like drilling in the ground, except, there were receptacles for all my uprights, and we were able to make a kind of big temple shape there. It was reflective of the train station across the road that had a big dance studio above it and had a big dome on, and people went up and danced in this studio. So if you stood at a certain place on the street, you could see the little ballroom that we had made out of sticks, and across the street you could see the train station with the same kind of configuration. So, just to try to do some different kinds of things.
Yeah, I really like that, and I feel like it comes back to that adaptability and flexibility you were talking about as well. Another question on the kind of difference between urban and natural settings is, I know one thing that we love at MODA is that the piece at Georgia Tech, at least, is going to be there until it kind of naturally starts to deconstruct and return back to the soil. But how does that process necessarily work when you do install in, say, a gallery or on concrete?
Well, the line between trash and treasure is very thin, and that's certainly true of sticks. Uh, I always say that you get one great year and one pretty good year, and sticks have a life. At certain points, if you take care of them, they might last 3 years or 4 years, but generally you want to take them down while they look good because it's still, it's still an exhibition and it just can't look more and more disheveled and have the same kind of interest as when you initially build it. The second thing is, I really believe in temporary work. I do think that when you have a sculpture on a college campus, after the first year, it's kind of used its viewership up. After people have seen it, they've seen it, they just don't see it anymore. So my theory is that it would be better to have a whole group of ideas presented over a period of time. You have one sculpture, take it away. Sculptures have ideas embedded in them, and universities are all about considering ideas and their viability. And so having, a series of temporary works, to me, seems to be more cogent than just having a work that sits there for 20 or 30 years and it's kind of used up its viewership. In terms of temporary, so I think that taking it down is at a certain point is good. I have a piece up at the North Carolina Museum that's been up for 12 or 13 years. It's basically could stay there forever. We have some baskets that are thousands of years old, and if you can figure out how to blow the dust off of them, it continues to look pretty good. I don't have any regrets about the work being mutable because people are very enthusiastic during its lifetime. We have 3 weeks that it takes 3 weeks to build a piece. And so oftentimes we get involved with the community during those 3 weeks and people come by and see what we're doing. There are a lot of hidden publics on the street or in a museum. It could be the UPS guy or all of your cleaning staff and lots of people that are really interested in sculpture, but really haven't had the opportunity to talk to an artist and see a work, built and have it go from something that looks kind of trashy on the street to something that looks pretty good and that's compelling. Often the person that's calling the police the first day because you're dragging branches into their neighborhood is the person that invites you to dinner the day you leave. So I like the sense of transformation in people's attitude as the piece progresses and takes on a real life of its own.
Absolutely. And we also just love I personally love the idea of it returning back to nature as well, and it serving its, being there and inspiring, but then also not being harmful and its inspiration, which I feel like happens a lot more often than should. But we are running out of time, so I do want to ask one final question. I know we've talked a lot about adaptability and the consideration of context and not harming the environment and being considerate of where you source materials. Do you imagine that we could have a future that's built with these principles where things like our buildings and our everyday objects are all utilize these and all kind of work towards benefiting the environment and inspiring people rather than just, using a lot and then being thrown away the next day?
I hope so. When you hear about the ocean and all of the plastic that's floating around out there, you feel like that you personally need to do something about it. And there's really relatively little you can do. But I've worked at SCAD and Savannah several times, and I've been very impressed with their ability to recycle materials, to repurpose buildings, to make a huge effort to maintain the viability of older things that were falling apart, to take bricks that were made a century ago and try to figure out how to use them again. So, you know, I think there, in terms of just plain architecture, there are ways of you know, kind of trying to upgrade buildings and reuse materials. I work in a lot of sculpture parks, but also botanical gardens, and I see the absolute importance that people be able to go out in nature and to experience the natural world, and how important it is to your, you know, to mental health. If you're down in Serenbe, you see an attempt there by the community to try to conglomerate their housing so that that they have plenty of room to take walks and to bring the natural world into their lives. So I think there are efforts underway. I hope there are a lot more experiments and trying to make sure that there's enough of the world left so that our children have an opportunity to see various species that are on the brink, and that there's an opportunity to be more sane about the way that we approach the natural world.
I agree 100%, and also hope that, I know there's a lot of things going on in the works, but I hope that it becomes very widespread very soon. But with all of that said, I think that we are out of time for this conversation. So thank you again so much for joining me, Patrick. It's been such a nice time talking to you and hearing your stories.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I also just want to say another huge thank you to Georgia Tech Serenbe for partnering with us for the conversation, and of course for supporting Patrick's build and bringing him to our community. To everyone watching, thank you again for tuning in. If you're interested in seeing Patrick's completed artwork, the installation will be completed on January 22nd and is located next to the Candida building near the intersection of First Drive and State Street. MODA will also be installing a small version of our recent exhibition, Learning from Nature, on the second floor of the Candida building. So if you have a bit of extra time, feel free to stop in and check it out. In the meantime, be sure to like and follow Georgia Tech Arts, MODA, and Serenbe on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date with all of our future events, especially as they relate to sustainable design. And of course, check out stickworks.net for more information about Patrick and his work. Thank you again, stay safe, and go Jackets.